If you still think of Vietnam as a land of the past, reality may surprise you. From towering limestone formations rising dramatically from the sea to cave systems so vast that they have their own weather patterns, the landscape here is a masterpiece. Yet it is also a place that has tested the limits of human endurance for centuries. Its greatness is not found in nature alone. You will see farmers cultivating terraced rice fields using traditional methods, right alongside a generation of Gen Z innovators shaping global digital trends. They do not merely endure, they continuously adapt and emerge stronger after every challenge. It is a remarkable collision between a sacred past and a high-speed future. What has given an ancient civilization such enduring strength when it chose to charge headfirst into the 21st century without letting go of its roots? Welcome to Vietnam, the most resilient nation in Asia. At Dong Vân, the plateau rises in columns of ancient limestone patient, immovable, indifferent to the sky above them. In autumn, buckwheat blooms, push violet through grey rock. Softness where the land offers none. Colour where it was never promised. Once a week, the Hmong descend from these heights to the weekly market. Not always to buy and sell, but to stand near one another in the open air and remember that the mountain, for all its power, has not made them solitary. Further south, Ninh Binh performs a quieter kind of wonder. Limestone peaks rise directly from flooded rice paddies, geology and cultivation sharing the same waterline without conflict. A boatwoman rose with her feet, both hands resting, reading a channel her grandmother read before her. There is no struggle here. Only a people who, over many generations, learned to think the way their landscape thinks. The center of Vietnam is its thinnest point. It is also where the country carries the most. Da Nang faces the South China Sea on one side and the Marble Mountains on the other, restlessness and stillness, divided by a single road. Hoi An, 30 kilometers south, does not preserve its past. It inhabits it. The same tiled rooftops, the same river light on lantern silk, kitchens still cooking what they cooked 4 centuries ago for merchants who no longer exist. Then the land softens into water, and water softens into sea. The Mekong does not have a coastline. It has a negotiation, 13 river channels spreading across the southern delta like an open hand. People here have never drawn a clear line between themselves and the water they live on. Boats serve as roads. Floating markets serve as town squares. The river is not a backdrop to daily life. It is daily life. But the Mekong is receding, not in headlines, not in emergency summits. Quietly, the way things end when the world is looking elsewhere. At Chamau, the mangrove forests of U Minh Ha hold what remains. Trees rooted in salt water, roots that will not release. People living among them who understand something the cities have long since forgotten. That the natural world is not something to be managed. It is something to be answered to. Vietnamese family culture is deeply rooted in the core values of filial piety, respect for elders, and strong familial bonds. Central to this close-knit structure is the sacred custom of ancestor worship, a practice reflecting the profound belief that the deceased continually watch over and guide the living. Every single Vietnamese home, an ancestral altar is carefully placed in the most respectful location. On the 1st and 15th days of the lunar month, as well as during death anniversaries and the Lunar New Year, family members gather to burn incense and offer fresh fruits, warm food, and flowers. These solemn rituals are not tied to any specific religion, but are simply an expression of immense gratitude and remembrance for the ancestors from whom they came. Ultimately, ancestor worship serves as a spiritual bridge, uniting generations and ensuring that traditional family values are beautifully preserved and passed down forever. Tet Nguyen Gian, the Vietnamese Lunar New Year, is the most significant cultural celebration in Vietnam, deeply cherished as the holiday of family reunion. Regardless of the distance, millions of Vietnamese people journey back to their hometowns after a long, exhausting year of working and studying. This sacred time is dedicated to gathering with loved ones, honoring ancestors, and sharing traditional meals under one roof, leaving behind the stress of the past year. Furthermore, the vibrant festive spirit of Tet does not simply end after the first few days. In Vietnamese culture, traditional festivals and communal celebrations predominantly take place throughout the entire first lunar month. During this extended period, various regions across the country host lively spring festivals, spiritual pagoda pilgrimages, and joyful folk games. Ultimately, Tet is far more than just a transition of time. It is a profound celebration of enduring familial bonds and rich cultural heritage. However, the connection among Vietnamese people isn't just found in quiet traditional values. Sometimes it erupts into an earthquake of emotions. Take those football nights, for instance. No history curriculum records this. When the final whistle sounds and Vietnam wins, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City cease to be two separate cities. The geography collapses. Strangers embrace on streets they have never crossed before. Elderly men stand at intersections, weeping without embarrassment. Children sit on their fathers' shoulders, waving red flags into the dark. No organizer, no scheduled gathering, only an invisible thread, and 97 million people knowing simultaneously that they are holding it. If you believe that thread only holds in celebration, look carefully at what happens when the storm arrives. In September 2024, Typhoon Yagi battered northern Vietnam. Yet amid the fiercest storm in decades, a breathtaking display of Vietnamese solidarity touched the world. On windswept bridges, massive trucks spontaneously slowed, using their bodies as protective shields so fragile motorbikes could safely cross. There were no orders, just an innate cultural instinct. The strong absorb the storm, so the weak can survive. No one is left behind. This hardship simply illuminated the extraordinary unity and boundless compassion woven into the Vietnamese soul. It is this profound national pride that inspires a deeply emotional confession among its people. If there is a next life, even as a humble blade of grass, I still choose to take root in Vietnam. To the local people, the word Vietnam is the embodiment of compassion and resilient vitality. However, on the other side of the globe, for a long time, that name was associated with an entirely different definition. An entire generation of Americans grew up with Vietnam meaning one specific thing: a war. When those people arrive here for the first time, many describe the same disorientation. They stand in the streets of Hanoi or Hoi An and cannot name what they feel. The distance between the word they carried and the place they are standing inside is too wide to close in an afternoon. What they find is a country that does not perform resentment. The Vietnamese did not forget the wars. They chose collectively to invest their energy forward rather than backward. Not because the history was small, because the future required more of them than the past ever could. Every person who arrives with genuine respect is received the way a distant relative is received after a long absence. Food already on the table, a chair already pulled out before the knock at the door, and all of it converges every single day at the same place. The grandmother running the household before dawn, the midnight flags in the street, the cars holding position in the wind, the door already open for whoever arrives. Not a temple, not a public square, the dinner table. The plastic stool is the great equalizer of Vietnamese society. On any given morning, a company director and an ex-arm driver can share the same low sidewalk table, eating from the same menu at the same price. No reservation, no dress requirement. Only the question of whether the food is worth returning to. On a plastic stool, that is the only currency that counts. Pho is the clearest expression of this culture's relationship with time. The broth simmers for 12 hours. The bowl is finished in 5 minutes, an entire night of preparation for a single, unrepeatable consumed at dawn by a person with 10 minutes before the workday begins. That is not inefficiency. It is a statement about what deserves serious attention. The street food scene is genuinely compelling, but it carries real risk, and honesty here serves better than avoidance. Eat where the turnover is high, where locals return daily, where the food moves fast enough that nothing sits long under the open sky. Seafood left in afternoon heat is a different calculation than a bowl of broth assembled fresh in front of you at 5 in the morning. At the family table, every dish lands in the center. Nobody receives a plate of their own food. Everything is shared, reached for, offered to whoever needs it before it is taken for oneself. This is not a serving style. It is a daily practice of collective values, enacted 3 times a day, absorbed by children before they can name what they are learning. The recipes that produce these meals do not exist in books. They exist in the hands and memory of whoever has been cooking the dish for the past 40 years. The transmission is entirely observational. Watch, taste, adjust, repeat. Nobody owns the recipe. Everyone carries it. A coffee shop in Saigon is not primarily a coffee shop. It functions as a workspace, a place for a first meeting, an afternoon refuge from the heat, a phone call taken in semi-private, and occasionally a place to sit alone without needing to explain it to anyone. Vietnam is the second largest coffee producer in the world, but volume has nothing to do with why people are here. They are here because drinking coffee gives them a legitimate reason to stay seated with another person for 1 more hour. People do not eat simply to sustain themselves. They eat to remember, to belong, to stay connected. And that instinct, the instinct to make the ordinary carry meaning, is the same force driving an economy that is changing faster than most outsiders realize. pull up low chairs to share the same humid air, the same drifting aromas of simmering broth, the same chaotic symphony of traffic and laughter. Entire lifetimes are poured out onto the concrete. The streets are not spaces to hurry through. They are where the soul of the country actually resides. We are often taught that peace requires silence, that safety requires hiding behind thick walls. Vietnam teaches a different truth. Safety here comes from being fiercely interwoven into the fabric of the crowd. You are protected by the constant watchful presence of the neighborhood, by the comforting hum of life right outside your window. In this beautiful density, you are never truly invisible. No one is allowed to fade quietly into the dark. What feels at first like overwhelming chaos is, in reality, a colossal, wordless embrace, a promise that you do not have to carry the weight of your days alone. And it is precisely this relentless rhythm of the alleyways and the pavements that gathers into a much larger current, the surge of a nation fiercely eager to tear open its cocoon. Understand Vietnam's economy, throw away the GDP charts. The true wealth of this country is not measured in abstract percentages. It is measured in the relentless hustle of its people. This is a nation where the DNA of an entrepreneur runs deeply in the collective bloodstream. The proof of this growth is not just in the gleaming glass of skyscrapers piercing the sky above weathered, moss-covered apartment blocks. It is in the staggering speed of adaptation. On a cracked sidewalk, a grandmother selling morning sticky rice casually points to a bank QR code taped to a piece of cardboard. A young generation finishes their corporate day jobs only to spend the night building their own independent brands. They did not wait for the world to catch up. They bypassed the era of plastic credit cards entirely, leaping straight from crumpled cash into a frictionless digital future. This burning ambition is built on a foundation of profound sacrifice. A previous generation endured the grueling hardships of post-war scarcity, callousing their hands just to survive. They carried the heavy weight of history so their children could sit in air-conditioned specialty coffee shops today, sipping artisanal lattes while negotiating with global partners. This economy functions exactly like the roaring river of motorbikes out on the streets. It is fluid, instinctual, and fiercely resilient. It always finds the narrowest, most impossible gaps, bends to fit the space, and surges forward. It might be chaotic, it might occasionally rewrite the rules, but it absolutely refuses to stand still. But if you only witness this breathtaking upward momentum, you are only seeing half the truth. Because the faster a living organism grows, the more agonizing its growing pains become. To step off a plane here for the first time is to be hit by a wall of beautiful, unyielding madness. For an outsider, the streets look less like infrastructure and more like a battlefield. Crossing the road requires an act of sheer, terrifying faith. Motorbikes swarm like a tidal wave, bleeding over the curbs and swallowing the sidewalks. Traffic laws often feel like polite suggestions rather than strict rules, yet the true magic happens after the initial shock wears off. Give it 3 days, and the terror dissolves into awe. You realize this is not lawlessness. It is a highly complex, unspoken choreography, a fluid dance where millions of people move purely on mutual instinct and collective survival. But this relentless momentum demands a heavy toll. Especially in Hanoi, progress is something you can literally breathe. It is the thick blanket of fine dust and exhaust fumes clinging to the humid air. By the end of the day, the street settles onto your clothes, and the grit of a rapidly expanding economy leaves a faint, lingering sting in your eyes. It is the raw, unfiltered physical cost of a nation building its future in real time. The noise. Vietnam does not do silence. The air is permanently saturated with a dizzying, unrelenting cacophony. The piercing blasts of horns, the metallic grind of midnight construction, the echoing voice of neighborhood loudspeakers, and a stranger pouring their soul into a courtyard karaoke machine. It is a sensory overload that never truly sleeps. So, after all the exhaust fumes, the overwhelming noise, and the bruising realities of this chaos, why do people stay? Not because they are blind to the flaws, but because they have deeply understood the soul of this land. You do not fall in love with Vietnam because it is a flawless, effortless paradise. If you are searching for the sterile, predictable, and anonymous comfort of a Western metropolis, this land will quickly break you. People do not stay here for the ease. They stay for the beautiful entanglement. They stay because you cannot be invisible. You stay because the moment you step out of your alley, a neighbor calls your name. Because if you crash your motorbike in the middle of a roaring intersection, 5 absolute strangers will rush into the traffic to lift you up before you even realize what has happened. That invisible thread connecting 97 million souls, the same thread that waves red flags into the night and shields fragile lives on a storm-battered bridge, is not woven from wealth or perfection. It is spun from astonishing endurance. It is forged in raw, unpolished human compassion and the miraculous ability to find genuine laughter in the most impossible circumstances. Vietnam does not ask if you love it. It only asks, are you brave enough to understand it?